Hey everyone, and welcome back. Now in today's video, we're going to be looking at the new releases for the Nintendo Switch and the Nintendo Switch 2. Now after a really crazy week of releases last week, this week is actually pretty quiet, with no specific Nintendo Switch 2 games releasing, and I would say only about 8 notable Nintendo Switch 1 games. Now do keep in mind that we do have a huge Nintendo Direct lined up for Friday, so this list might not end up being complete. We might get some shadow drops. But nonetheless, I do think there are a few really interesting releases for this week, so let's jump in. Just remember to hit that like button and subscribe if you aren't already. It really helps out a smaller channel like mine a ton. Now to start things off for today, we have a retro collection with Bubsy in the Purrfect collection that should already be out because it released on September 9th and is selling for $19.99. It includes 3 different versions of Bubsy in claws encounters of the third kind, the Super Nintendo, Super Famicom, and Sega Genesis version. It also includes 3 different versions of Bubsy 2, the Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, and Game Boy versions. And you also get Bubsy in Fractured Furry Tales, which was on the Atari Jaguar. And finally, Bubsy 3D from the PlayStation. Now the Bubsy series is from that mascot era in video gaming, where every company was trying to come up with the next Mario or Sonic. However, he didn't necessarily fare as well as some of the other mascots. On a personal level, I do have a soft spot for Bubsy and Bubsy 2, and a little bit of hate for Bubsy 3D, which was a disappointing game for me on the PlayStation. Nonetheless, you are getting a decent roundup of games here for $20, so if you do have a lot of nostalgia for the Bubsy series, I could see picking this one up. Now that brings us to another game that should already be out with Call of the Sea, that also released on September 9th and will be selling for $19.99. Now this is a first-person puzzle adventure game set on a mysterious 1930s island. You'll have to uncover the fate of your husband's expedition while solving intricate environmental puzzles and diving into a Lovecraftian mystery. There's no combat in this game, just exploration, atmosphere, and a hauntingly beautiful narrative of love and transformation. Now what definitely drew my attention to this one was the visuals, and it is going back to the days of those first-person mystery games. I would maybe wait for a review or two on this one before necessarily dropping the cash, but if you are a fan of narrative puzzle games, I definitely think you should keep this one on your radar.
Suddenly they stopped coming. What happened, old pal?
Now lastly for September 9th, we have Dunkadillo, which will be selling for $9.99. Now this game promises to be a physics-driven action platformer starring an armadillo with attitude. You'll bounce, roll, and slam through vibrant obstacle-filled levels in a high-speed pinball-style adventure. It promises simple controls and chaotic energy that make it perfect for pick-up-and-play fun with arcade flair. Now this game comes from the creator of the Dadish series, which is a simple yet extremely fun 2D action platformer series. I really enjoyed that series' simplicity yet greatly designed levels, and this one seems to be promising much of the same, however with evolved physics. So I do think it is a notable pick for this week, and I will be definitely trying it in the near future.
Dunkadillo!
Now moving over to September 10th, we have Garfield Kart 2 All You Can Drift that is going to be selling for $29.99. Although I picked this as a notable game for this week, this is one you're definitely going to wait for reviews. The reason why is the first game in the series was extremely disappointing. However, this one, I've got to say, at least from a visual perspective, does seem to be a lot more promising. I love the switch up to a cartoon-like art style here, which matches up perfectly with the IP. And although Microids is definitely hit or miss with its releases, they have surprised us before with a pretty decent kart racer in Nickelodeon Kart Racers 2. The problem is you can never be sure because the first and third game in that other series were not that great. But if you're looking for a casual kart racer featuring Garfield and friends across lasagna-fueled tracks, well, maybe you should keep an eye on this one. I just definitely don't think you should be dropping the $30 till you know what you're getting. Now we do have another notable release in my opinion for September 10th with Hellcard that will be selling for $24.99. Now this is a tactical deck building roguelike that is set in the Book of Demons universe. You'll have to battle through procedurally generated dungeons with card-based combat that plays out on a grid. The game says that positioning matters as much as your hand, and it can be played in solo or co-op. The game focuses on building synergies and making tough strategic calls each turn. Now this is definitely one of my top picks for this week, and I do have a sneaking suspicion that there is a good game here, especially that the game released on Steam a little while ago, and reviews are pointing pretty positively. Once again, maybe my only hesitation here is the slightly higher price point for an unknown IP, so maybe you're going to wait for a sale for this one.
The scholar weaves powerful spells from afar.
Now next is definitely at least my most anticipated release for this week, with Baki Hanma Blood Arena releasing on September 11th and selling for $29.99. Now this promises to be a brutal over-the-top fighting game that does take its gameplay inspiration from Punch-Out! The story is based around the Baki anime series, and it promises that you'll have to master powerful martial arts moves, bone-crushing combos, and cinematic finishers as you fight through a roster of iconic fighters in adrenaline-fueled battles dripping with raw power and anime flair. Now, although this is definitely not my favorite anime, I have watched through the series, and I do think that the Punch-Out! Style of gameplay is perfect for it, where the show itself is pretty much only about fighting. And oddly enough, the art style and over-the-topness of the game here seems to really be capturing the essence of the series if you've ever seen it. Now, I really hope that they aren't only banking on that and that the gameplay also stands up, but for a pretty well-known IP, releasing the game at $29.99 also seems like a decent offering. Question is, how long is the game? How many opponents do you get? Maybe that will be the downside here. But hopefully we'll find out soon, and I do have my fingers crossed for this one. Now next, if we move over to September 12th, we have Inspector Waffles Early Days that will be selling for $9.99. Now this is a game that is done in the Game Boy Color style, meaning that there's an actual version that runs on the original console. And it promises to deliver a pixel art detective adventure where you play as a rookie version of the sarcastic feline sleuth. You'll have to investigate crime scenes, interrogate quirky animal characters, and unravel noir-style mysteries in a whimsical yet clever point-and-click experience full of charm and cat jokes. Now, I am a sucker for Game Boy style games, so this one definitely hit my radar. Now, this is supposed to be a prequel to a previous Inspector Waffles game, which currently I am unfamiliar with. But I find it's a really interesting genre to try out in the Game Boy Color style, and at $10, I'm willing to give it a shot. On your end, yet again, you might want to wait for a review or two, but if you are like me, a fan of that retro style, this one could be a really fun pick. Now last for our notable Switch releases for this week, we have Gloomy Eyes also releasing on September 12th and will be selling for $24.99. Now this game is a puzzle platformer where you'll have to switch control between two playable characters. It's set in a world where the sun has stopped rising, and it follows a love story between a zombie boy and a human girl. It combines interactive storytelling with stylized diorama visuals and a poetic narration in a hauntingly beautiful format that is very reminiscent of a Tim Burton art style. Now the one big question mark that I have here is this feels like a game that would have been perfect for co-op, but no, it is single player only. And there are indications that the game might be very, very short. So I do definitely warn, wait for a review for this one, especially because it's at a sales price of $24.99. But nonetheless, I did want to highlight it due to its absolutely beautiful art style. Now those were for me the notable Switch releases for this week. Let me know in the comments down below if I maybe missed out on any games, or just which is your favorite game releasing this week. And on the way out, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe if you aren't already, and click on that notification bell. And I hope I'll see you in my next video.